Hi, welcome back to Woman Meets Motherhood. Today we're going to be talking about elective C-sections. So we're joined by two lovely ladies, Chloe, who actually had her C-section 3 weeks ago, and Lydia, who was a season 1 guest. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. I actually had an emergency C-section, and I know a lot of women that have been through the same thing as me have always said in the future they would want to either plan for it because the rush of it is crazy or try and go for the natural. So I guess you don't always hear about electives. So I just wanted to find out what made you decide to go for an elective.
So I've got 2 elder boys that are 10 and 8, and their births both ended up with me having 3rd-degree tears, which is when you tear through skin, muscle and tissue, which then resulted in me having surgery after each birth.
Surgery, so not the usual just stitch.
Not the midwife, no. I had to have a spinal block and then go into theatre for about an hour after both.
You had an epidural after?
After I'd gone through all of that, I then had a spinal block and then the recovery for that was quite long as well, and then resulted in quite a lot of tests after to check everything was working. And I was advised with my second child not to ever do that again.
Yeah. To have a natural.
Yeah, not to have a natural birth again.
What was the reason for the tears?
There was really no reason. The first one was just in the birth centre, so it just happened. The second one, he was delivered in an emergency in the end because his heart rate was dropping, so he was von Toost out of me quite quickly, and they didn't have time to read my notes of my previous birth. So they probably should have maybe cut me. But they didn't, they had to get him out quickly, which resulted in another 3rd-degree tear. Wow. So I wasn't going to go through that again.
And Lydia, what was your choice? Why did you choose to go for an elective?
Well, I faced the choices of either an assisted labour, so it would have been similar to yours with von Toost and forceps.
So can you go through von Toost? What does that mean? Sorry.
It's a suction. You're probably
suction cap. So it goes onto the baby's head.
Yeah.
They kind of create a suction, and then the doctors pull them out.
Okay.
And have that cone head, I think, don't they? A bit of a shape because of the
Did
suction
he have
in
that
it.
for the first time?
Yeah, I don't really remember. I probably just had a hat on him.
I'm sure he did. But they're beautiful boys. Yeah. You would never even know.
Yeah, so that was one choice, because I had a hole in my heart, so I couldn't do the pushing bit, because the pushing would have meant I would have had a mini stroke or a TIA or a full stroke. So I could go into natural labour, but it would be assisted, or have the caesarean. And I thought at the end of the day, although I really wanted to experience natural labour, and obviously that had been my plan, I didn't want to put the baby or myself under the sort of pressure and the stress of not knowing exactly what might happen with an assisted labour. So I thought for safety reasons, a caesarean would have been a better choice.
Now, what stage of pregnancy do you talk about this or decide this? Or when do you decide?
It was, I'm sure it was around 20 weeks. I was based on my appointment with the midwife when I first was pregnant. Then they booked me in to see a specialist consultant, to which we discussed it. But I'd swapped hospitals from my first 2 births to my 3rd birth, so my notes didn't get sent over from the hospital, so it was just my word kind of telling them that had happened to me. But
Were they quite receptive? So if we just said, "Oh, I want an elective C-section," do they quite try and push you to have
she did
a natural?
Say that it may not, excuse me, it may not happen again. But they said that to me the last time as well. So I just said I didn't want to risk it. I wasn't prepared to risk it, and I still had my notes myself, my discharge notes. So but they didn't need evidence, but I had evidence that had happened to me.
But what's the process of going for an elective C-section? Who do you go and see? Who do you call? And do you fill out forms? Or
the midwife on the first appointment, I obviously then gave her my background. So then they booked the booking appointment, which then they booked me a consultant appointment. And then from there, they then gave me another appointment with what they call the Birth Choices Clinic. Okay. So you see then another consultant, and he was the one that said that's absolutely fine.
Is the Birth Choices Clinic part of the hospital?
Yes, that was part of the hospital I was at, yes. And I didn't have to kind of argue a case or anything, he just said that's absolutely fine. Okay. So it was simple in that way, but obviously the history enabled me to elect.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I had a consultant already to do with my heart, because I think it was at 9 weeks in my pregnancy that they discovered it. So again, I think my initial discussion was with a midwife, but because all the consultants were involved, it was a fairly easy movement to go into the caesarean instead of having a natural labour. My sister, she actually had a fear of labour, of natural labour, and so she had quite a battle to try and get a caesarean.
That's what I always wondered. Could you actually, could a woman who had never experienced pregnancy choose to have an elective, and would that be allowed?
She did, but they weren't very happy, and they did all they could to try and persuade her. But at the end of the day, she said her fear was so much that it would cause a lot of stress for her and the baby, and so they did actually give her the caesarean. But I know nowadays they're very conscious of the cost of everything, and a caesarean obviously costs a lot more than a natural birth, because you've got the team of consultants and surgeons and anaesthetists, and they're already there in the room for you, so it costs a lot more to have that all organised.
And can you talk to us about how you choose the date then? So you've got your due date. Do you just go for your due date?
My due date was June the 22nd.
Okay. Oh, that's right. My son's birthday. That's my son's birthday. It's a good day.
They'd moved my date back 2 days already, and my second son was 3 or 4 days early. So in my head, I didn't want to risk natural labour, so I wanted to be at least 39 weeks. But I was worried I still could go into natural labour at 39 weeks. So then I was thinking 38 weeks, but they don't like to really do it before 39 weeks. And the hospital I was at only do elective caesareans on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So when the doctor did say, when do you want to have your caesarean? And then I pinpointed the 12th of June, which was 38 and a half weeks, which was a Tuesday. Because I thought it's the start of the week, I'll be home by the weekend.
So very practical thinking, my kids.
The children will be fine. And he checked that was within a reasonable time frame. He said, yeah, that's fine. You're in.
Wow.
I feel terrible because I did it. I literally did it. I said, how early can I have it? Because I didn't want the last stretch. So I thought, save me those last stretch marks, which I didn't get. Now I have no stretch marks.
Wow.
Even though I've had 5 children, so I'm quite pleased. Thank you, Mum. But yeah, so I just said, what's the earliest? And it because they won't actually plan them for a weekend, because weekends tend to be very busy, I think, in the hospitals. It has to obviously be a weekday, and mine ended up 10 days before due date. Each one except the twin birth, which was 11 days, because I went into labour the day before.
So once you've chosen your date, so you've got in your mind, my baby's coming on this day, which is, I think it's quite strange, because I've had 2 natural births. Yeah. And literally when you're waiting, you have no idea that when you're like 39 weeks, you're kind of like, could it happen today? Could it happen tomorrow? And even the day, when I look back, the days that they happened, I didn't expect it to happen. So I think it's quite a different mindset when you know that I'm literally going to meet my baby in X number of, And I guess for you, did you find that?
I really liked it because I'm quite a planner. So I could plan my other 2 sons, who was going to take them to school, who was pack their bags, So for me, it was quite nice knowing that date, and then count down to that date was, it was nice. And just knowing I didn't have that last 10 days of waiting, and then potentially going over, which I've never gone over on any of my other births, but I did think, oh God, I could do this time. And it was hot.
It was very hot. It's been very hot. How do they balance that though? The fact that you could still go into natural labour.
So if I'd gone into natural labour, I would have had to have gone straight to hospital, and they said as long as you are not more than 8 centimetres dilated,
they'll still do a C-section.
They'll still do a C-section.
And then it would then be categorised as an emergency, I guess, at that point.
Oh, okay.
And when it comes to elective C-section, so you choose your day, and is it like an appointment, like 10 a.m. meet us here, your baby's going to be born by like 12, so you know pretty much what time your baby's going to be born, everything before. Is that how it works?
There were 3 of us that were elective that day, so we all went in about 7 a.m. and then I was second on the list, and luckily there were no emergencies, so we stayed in our first, second, third place, which is then you're just sitting there waiting. And they're
and that's nerve-wracking.
They're cleaning the room ready for you to go in. So I think Jessie was born at 8 minutes past 11, so I'd gone in at 7, but it did go quite quickly, apart from my mum and my husband eating in front of me, and I wasn't allowed to eat. and drinking coffee.
So talk to us about the preparation for the C-section. I don't know if there's like, they advise you, 24 hours, don't do this, whatever. I don't know if there is.
You're not allowed to eat from, I think it was midnight the night before, and you have to take a tablet the day before and the morning.
What's the tablet
The
for?
tablet it's to do with acid, so you don't, if you're not sick, because they're playing about with your insides and things and moving around. It's to stop
Because you haven't
sickness.
eaten, so so it's just to control the acid reflux in your stomach.
Yeah, I'm finding this because I'm thinking when you go into an emergency, obviously you don't have that opportunity to do anything. So I guess they would just have to deal with that as it comes.
Yeah.
It's a bit scary actually.
One of mine ended up, I was supposed to be on the morning of January the 5th having my cesarean, and my twins, after I'd been to the hospital and taken my pill and signed the forms, gone back home, my twins decided, no, we've had enough, we're coming out. And so that was it, my waters broke and I had to go in for emergency cesarean. And that is scary because, you haven't done all your pre-bits and you're not...
Was it more scary for you, given that that was your third labour?
Yes, that's right.
And so you had first, second really controlled plans, elective C-section, but then now emergency, knowing how different it was. Like, I guess Michelle doesn't know what elective is, so she just goes with the flow. Was it more scary, the emergency, because...
It was, because you can see that they're all on... sort of special watch, they're all on edge and you're being monitored a lot more, and there's that sort of rushing around and they're trying to make decisions and and actually they don't involve you in a lot of that. They just talk to themselves and each other, and then they come and tell you, right, we're going to do this. And in my case, if I'd have had one more contraction, then we would have all died. So it was it's quite scary.
Wow. If you haven't seen that episode, season one, it's all there. So get the details there. The day, so you're waiting in the waiting room. So what happened? Like, what's the actual process?
So as soon as we got there, my husband and I both got given him his scrubs, me a gown. They got my flight socks on. I call them flight socks. They're the compression socks.
Are they actually do they serve purpose?
To stop blood clots. Oh, okay. Because you're kind of laid down for quite a while.
Really attractive.
Yeah, very attractive look. And then it's just midwife comes in, checks the baby's heart rate, checks everything on you, your temperature, and to check you've not got a bug or anything. And then the surgeon, a consultant comes in to speak to you, and an anaesthetist comes in to speak to you, then the surgeon. So it was quite a lot of people coming in and out and just explaining what's going to happen, and with the anaesthetic and things like that.
So what do they also go on?
I was going to say, did you pick music? Did you pick a disc for this?
I kind of had, we were just going to have the Greatest Showman soundtrack on because we played it a lot in the pregnancy. But actually when we went into theatre, it looked like quite an old kind of cassette player thing, and so we didn't bother in the end. And I wasn't fussed really by that point. I was just...
It's so funny that they have all these little things. You can have music of your choice because it's also ready and waiting for you. It's almost like you can set up the room as to how you desire it. Not set up the room, but I mean have the mood, atmosphere. The atmosphere.
Yeah, looking back, maybe I should have put it on because I was then very conscious of everyone around me, because there's a lot of people in the room. There's really 10 people in the room.
Oh, wow.
And I guess that's very different from a birth centre experience.
Yeah, where I just had one midwife. So I did find it a bit strange.
Yeah, and you have your team, the team that you're supposed to have if if it all goes well. So it's nice because you do know.
It's the same care. Same person you've seen. The consultant's the same.
See, I didn't know. I didn't have any of the same. Only my friend who was my midwife who came into theatre with me.
How many people are allowed in theatre with you in elective? I don't know if that's...
Only your one person.
Okay, so that's the same.
Yeah.
So for you, Chloe, having had 2 natural births and you went through the experience of those third-degree tears and obviously experiencing now going through healing from a C-section, how are the two compared?
I think I found healing from a C-section easier than the third-degree tears. I think probably just where the wound is easier to kind of deal with because you are sitting down a lot with a newborn. It's harder in the night when you kind of forget, or you go to sit up or go to pick up the baby and your stomach it's painful, but it's better than I thought it would be in terms of my mobility. And I was surprised the next day when they got me up. I was like, oh, I'm walking, this is okay, this is all right. It's just certain movements that are more painful.
And for you, Lydia, I know some women I've spoken to who've had C-sections, they talk about the thought process of sometimes having another C-section, they apparently cut you in the same place? Or?
Yeah, so the scar is in the same place, but apparently not in the muscle lining. So they go up underneath the skin, and then they make a different incision on the inside.
Each time?
Yeah.
But Lydia, also, I've heard that you're not supposed to have more than...
No, I think 3 they advise.
Yeah, so you've had 5 C-sections.
Yeah, 4.
4 C-sections. So were they angry with you? They're like, why are you here again?
They did say we're actually now going to tie you up, so we can't have any more on this one. But it wasn't too bad because I'd left a 5-year gap between the last cesarean and the last one that I actually ended up having. But on the twins, what happened there is why they advise you not to have too many, because your muscle and the skin and where they're cutting obviously weakens. And so my uterus was rupturing. And I think that's why they advise not, because otherwise it all gets a bit thin and you've got all the scar tissue to deal with, and it just a bit complicates things quite a bit. So you do have to make sure that you heal really well and leave time.
In terms of, I don't know, for the scar to fade, any tips for women that have C-section, or there's nothing you could do?
Well, I think tips for me.
Part of it is hereditary, so genetics in terms of I haven't got any stretch marks, even though I was like dress size 26 with my twins. But I think a lot of it is rest. It's really important for at least 2 weeks, a good 2 weeks, to really let your body recover. I know after my first I didn't, and I tried to do things and I tore a bit inside and bled because I was doing too much too early. So I think that's the best. And they said when I went in with my last one, because of the 5-year, my body had time to recuperate and to recover and to heal. And
so as long as you leave a big enough gap, you can have as many as you like.
Well, I don't know. I think there is a point. I think they literally would tie me up. Today.
And Chloe, so would you do it again? Electives. Say you're very fertile now. say you get pregnant in a couple of months, you find out you're pregnant. Would you do elective?
I'd say I preferred natural labour.
Okay.
But the recovery of the C-section's better. So I don't think still I'd put myself through the risk of what happened with the first 2. So I think I'd elective C-section again.
Why would you say that? In terms of natural being better for...
I just found the whole being in theatre with all the people around just, I don't know, just not very personal. But it was just a very different experience to labour, I think, where you've just got one person in the room and your partner. It seemed a lot... Even though it was calm, there's people, anaesthetists talking to nurses, talking to doctors, and you're out of... I think maybe it's the control thing, actually, because I was completely out of control, because I was numb and my hands were next to me and husband's behind me, and it just didn't feel very...
And in terms of maybe the consciousness, because I guess when you have elective C-section, you don't have contractions.
No.
But I guess when you're in natural labour, your mind... When the 10 people are there, one person's there, you probably don't even...
You blank them.
You blank it out. But I guess you're probably much more aware
of what's going on.
There's 10 people in the room and my baby's about to come. You probably can process that more. Whereas if you're in natural labour, you're naked and people... it doesn't even... You don't even... Yeah. So maybe that as well.
And I think the worry of, am I going to feel anything? Even though they do all the tests, but... The whole concept of you can feel them touch you, but you can't feel the pain. I was just like, how?
Can you not feel anything?
No, just rummaging.
It's like they're washing up in your tummy. They're just moving things around.
I felt like I was just being pulled like this.
But it's not like ow or anything.
No, it's not ow. It's just...
I can just feel stuff.
Yeah.
And when did you get to actually hold your babies? Because I know most of the time they just, it's baby, and then they might sometimes take them away, or your husband gets to hold them, or how was it for you?
They
guys?
brought him straight over to me to look at, and then he went off to have his cord cut, and my husband went with him at that point, and then they wrapped him up and kind of brought him over to me, but like he was kind of laid there, so you can't really, they're so close to you can't actually really see them.
And for you, Chloe, you didn't know what you were having.
No.
So did they shout like, it's a boy? Or?
No, they lowered the screen as they lifted him out. They lowered the screen.
So you could just see his...
I could just see.
I'm familiar with that, I've got 2 boys.
And at that point he peed all over me.
He peed over who?
The midwife. So it was, and then that made everyone laugh. So that was kind of quite nice. That it kind of broke the kind of mood, and so I was like, definitely another boy.
With mine, they needed to be taken off because when you have cesareans, because you're not going through the contractions, which stimulates the baby's lungs and gets it ready for birth, they don't have that, so it's a bit of a shock. So they take the baby up, and baby's like an alien. And then they take them off and stimulate their lungs and clear their airways as well, because there's still all the mucus. Because that's another thing, when you're contracting labour, it sort of squeezes all the fluid out of the baby's lungs.
It's like sometimes they don't cry. Sometimes some.
Yeah. So mine didn't. I had some hairy experiences with a few of mine.
Can you tell us a little bit about?
They were great. So my first one was just textbook. It was amazing. It was relaxed. It was calm. It did feel like a surgery because you go into this really white room. You're on a table, and it's all very operations sort of thing. But the staff, if they're joyful and friendly, it's quite nice and relaxes you. But my second one, she came out and she was grey and hadn't got any oxygen in her, so that was really scary. And she had to be taken off, and then they just massaged them and sort of rubbed them and clear the airways. And thank the Lord she came back and she was fine. And then I was allowed to hold her. And then with the twins, they actually gave one to my husband and took one away. So I was left there thinking, no, where are my babies? And she had the same problem, so she wasn't breathing for a little while. And again, but it's okay. Some babies will take a little while longer to stimulate because they haven't had that. Sort of
I didn't know that. It's like the shock. They literally just like brought out of their home into the world.
And that's what I found a bit strange when they took him off, because it's almost, it felt like about 5 minutes. It probably wasn't, but they're just over the other side of the room and the baby's screaming, and you're kind of on your own for a minute. You're just like, okay. And you can still feel the rummaging because they're still working on you. So
actually, I guess the benefit is, because what I hate is after the baby's out, you just think, oh yes, I'm done. And then it's like the placenta. It's like, oh come on, placenta, hurry up. And like, sit here, do this. It's like, I'll just push that baby.
You're like shaking.
Like, I guess with the C-section, they just
do it all for you. Out, clearly done.
Oh, that's fab. So that's what I just don't like. It's like, that heel comes out, you're just like, and then it's like, no, wait, the placenta. It's like, hurry up. Awesome. So you would do elective C-section again?
yes, I would, yes.
For the recovery?
Yeah.
So any tips for recovery? What are the rules around recovery in terms of driving and things like that? Or do you just break them and do what you like? I can tell that Lydia probably I've got 4 other kids, I need to be on the move.
I can't sit down and relax. Yeah, I laughed when you said that to me. But it's supposed to be 6 weeks before driving.
Okay.
But as we were saying earlier, it's more of an insurance thing, because if you have to make an emergency stop and you've got the strap on you, you could risk splitting the wound.
Okay.
So it's more for that than anything. But I think, in the beginning, just take
You're not meant to lift anything heavier than the baby for 2 weeks.
What about if you've had like 2 under 2 and you've got to carry your 18-month-old?
Not really
It's
supposed to.
No, not meant to do any housework.
Oh, that's
How do you live life?
Chloe, are you doing housework?
It's hard though. It's when the dishwasher's full. You can't. It's really hard to sit there like.
So how do you actually, especially mums who have other kids, how do you live life? Like, it's like you're actually like incapacitated.
And your husband has to go back to work.
Yeah. You have to
I
get on
think.
with it.
Well, I would say probably most women do a bit more than they probably should.
Yeah.
Just because life, you have
And
to.
you can feel it if you overdo it, because it will pull.
It will
Anything that
Really?
tracks your stomach muscles, and you feel the pull on there.
At what stage is it? Are the stitches gone, or or for both of you? What stage did you?
Particular way they stitched me up, after 5 days they removed the dressing because your skin only takes 5 days to heal, and I had a plastic stitch that they pulled out after day 5, and then all the other stitches are internal because your muscles take 6 weeks. So everything external heals within 5 days, but everything internal takes a lot longer.
Oh, okay. So you're on the outside now, you have no more dressing, have no more stitches.
No.
Okay.
Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing what it takes to go through an elective C-section and why you would opt for that. I'm looking forward to hearing about Chloe's next baby. She's like, oh no, I'm done.
Waiting a while.
But no, thank you so much for sharing, and hopefully women out there are more informed as well about what their choices are, and if they do want to go for elective C-section, what to expect versus a natural labour. So thank you. So thank you all for tuning in to Woman Meets Motherhood. As always, stay equipped, empowered and encouraged, and we look forward to you tuning into our next episode. So Also, please subscribe. The link is below for any support around C-section. We'll put it there. And thank you for tuning in.